Something just happened in the technology industry that may mark a turning point, not in theory, not in prediction, but in direct corporate action. A major financial technology company has eliminated nearly half its workforce, not because of falling revenue, not because of economic recession, not because demand collapsed. The cuts came during strong financial performance, and the reason given was artificial intelligence. The company is Block, the firm behind Square, Cash App, and Tidal. 40% of its workforce is being eliminated, roughly 4,000 people. And the decision, according to leadership, is not temporary restructuring. It is structural transformation. At the center of it is the company's chief executive, Jack Dorsey, one of Silicon Valley's most influential and unconventional leaders, a figure known for long-term bets, radical operational shifts, and a willingness to move faster than consensus. This time, he isn't just predicting the future of work. He's acting on it. In public statements, Dorsey framed the layoffs as a response to a fundamental shift in how companies operate. His argument is blunt. Intelligence tools, his term for advanced AI systems, have changed what it means to build and run an organization. Smaller teams, he says, can now accomplish more than larger ones. And the capability of these tools is not growing gradually. It's compounding, week by week. So instead of reducing headcount slowly over years, he chose immediate compression, a decisive cut executed before external pressures demand it. That framing matters, because this was not described as cost control. It was described as adaptation to a new operating reality, and markets responded instantly. Investors pushed the company's share price sharply upward in after-hours trading, a surge of more than 26%. Financial markets interpreted mass layoffs driven by automation not as a warning sign, but as strategic efficiency. That reaction may be one of the most revealing signals in the entire story. For decades, automation has been discussed as a long-term economic force, something that would gradually reshape labor markets over generations. What just happened suggests something very different. Executives may now believe the timeline has collapsed. This is not theoretical displacement. This is a profitable company removing thousands of employees specifically because AI can perform enough of their work to make them unnecessary. And the scale is extraordinary. Just 5 years ago, the company employed roughly half as many people. Its workforce expanded rapidly during a period of technological growth and digital financial adoption. Now nearly half of that expansion is being reversed, not because the business shrank, but because its internal tools improved. That distinction is critical. Historically, layoffs follow contraction. Demand falls, revenue declines. Companies reduce staff to survive. Here, revenue is strong, the company is healthy, and employees are still being removed because leadership believes the same output can be achieved with far fewer people. That is a completely different economic model. It implies productivity gains so large that labor becomes optional at scale, not just in manufacturing, not just in logistics, but in high-skilled white-collar environments. And that is why the reaction across the technology sector has been immediate and uneasy. Software engineers, analysts, designers, compliance specialists, professionals who once viewed AI primarily as a tool, are now confronting the possibility that executives see it as a replacement. Many workers still believe AI functions best as augmentation, a productivity multiplier, a system that assists humans rather than substitutes for them. But corporate leadership is increasingly signaling a different expectation, that continued improvement will cross a threshold where replacement becomes not just possible, but economically irresistible. Dorsey is openly betting that threshold will arrive quickly. In his own words, he believes most companies are late to this realization. He predicts that within a year, the majority of firms will reach the same conclusion and make similar structural changes. That is not a forecast of isolated disruption. That is a forecast of widespread workforce contraction across the corporate economy. If he is right, what we are witnessing is not a single company restructuring. It is the beginning of a labor model transition. Inside the company, the decision did not land quietly. During an internal video conference meeting explaining the layoffs, employees reacted in real time. Waves of negative reactions filled the screen as leadership described the shift. Frustration, anger, disbelief, visible and immediate. At one point, an employee reportedly questioned whether wearing a hat reading "love" while announcing mass job cuts was an appropriate visual message. Moments like that capture the emotional fracture at the center of technological change. On one side, efficiency, scalability, optimization. On the other, livelihoods, stability, identity. For workers, employment is not an abstract resource allocation. It is survival, it is dignity, it is predictability in an unpredictable world. For executives, labor is a variable in an evolving production system. Artificial intelligence is now forcing those perspectives into direct collision, and the broader political system is beginning to notice. Concerns about technological displacement are no longer limited to academic economists or futurists. They are entering national policy discussions. Leaders across the ideological spectrum are asking whether white-collar automation will create economic dislocation on a scale comparable to industrial automation in the 20th century. Among those raising alarms is Bernie Sanders, who has repeatedly warned that technological productivity gains must not translate into widespread economic insecurity. His concern reflects a deeper question that policymakers have not yet answered. If machines perform an increasing share of high-skill work, how will income distribution function? Productivity can rise indefinitely. Employment cannot disappear indefinitely, not without systemic consequences. Historically, new technologies created new categories of work. Agricultural automation led to industrial employment. Industrial automation led to service economies. Digital computing created entirely new professional classes. But AI differs from prior technologies in a crucial way. It is not limited to physical labor or routine processing. It targets cognition itself, analysis, design, pattern recognition, and increasingly, decision-making. When a technology begins to perform the same mental tasks that define professional identity, the historical pattern of job replacement becomes less certain. That uncertainty is now moving from speculation into corporate practice. And the epicenter of that shift remains Silicon Valley, a region that has repeatedly reinvented global economic structures, first through personal computing, then internet platforms, then mobile ecosystems, now artificial intelligence. The cultural philosophy of that environment rewards early adoption, rapid experimentation, and decisive restructuring. Waiting is seen as risk. Acting early is seen as advantage. That philosophy appears to be guiding this decision. Dorsey did not claim his company was first to recognize AI's implications. He claimed most companies simply have not acted yet. That distinction matters, because if leadership across industries shares that belief, even partially, then workforce reductions may accelerate not when technology fully matures, but when executives collectively decide maturity is inevitable. In other words, perception alone could trigger large-scale labor contraction. Financial markets would likely reinforce that behavior. The immediate stock surge following the layoff announcement demonstrates investor appetite for automation-driven efficiency. When shareholders reward workforce reduction, corporate incentives become clear. Fewer employees, higher margins, faster execution, stronger valuation. From a purely financial perspective, the logic is compelling. From a social perspective, the consequences are far more complex. Large-scale white-collar displacement would ripple through housing markets, consumer spending, higher education, and regional economic stability. Entire career pathways could compress or disappear. Professional identity, long associated with education, specialization, and cognitive skill, may no longer guarantee long-term security. And yet, this transformation is not unfolding in the distant future. It is unfolding now, inside profitable companies, justified by operational metrics already being observed internally. That is what makes this moment historically significant. Not the technology itself, not the predictions about its potential, the implementation. 4,000 jobs removed in a single strategic move, explicitly because artificial intelligence enables a smaller workforce to produce equivalent or greater output. That statement, once hypothetical, is now operational policy. What happens next depends on whether other companies follow. If they do, this moment may be remembered as one of the earliest visible signals that AI moved from enhancement to substitution in mainstream corporate structure. If they don't, it may remain an aggressive outlier, a bold experiment whose results others study cautiously. But the direction of technological capability is not in doubt. Intelligence systems are improving rapidly. Automation boundaries are expanding. Productivity thresholds are shifting. The real question is not whether AI will change employment. It is how quickly institutions choose to reorganize around it. For now, one company has made its choice. A profitable firm reduced its workforce by 40%, citing artificial intelligence as the reason. Investors rewarded the move. Employees protested it. Policymakers are watching it. And the rest of the corporate world is deciding whether to follow. If they do, the future of work may not arrive gradually. It may arrive the same way this decision did, suddenly, decisively, and all at once.